$2.99 a yard. What am I gonna do, guys? I'm gonna be reupholstering all of my cushions. Hi there, my name is April Sawtell and welcome to my channel. Today what I'm going to be doing is just showing you a super simple way to cover your patio chair. I know I need 25 inches from this side to the bottom of this side. So I've got 25 inches. I want to have a 25-inch wide piece of fabric, and I know around that I'm going to need 60 inches because I'm going to take and I'm going to add 5 inches for my overhang and 2 inches for seams. So whatever my number comes up to, I need to add 7 inches to. So that brings me to 60. So I need to go cut a whole bunch of pieces of fabric 60 inches long by 25 inches wide. For this is the top pillow. For the bottom pillow, I have a different number. That one I believe is 30 by 70. So I'm going to show you the whole process of how to do this. Again, these are going to be enveloped, so they're going to be really easy. There's not going to be a lot of fuss to these at all. And the overhang is plenty. I also have, I don't take the covers off them. I leave them on it. I've got old, they're really out of shape, so they can use all the bulk up inside of them that they can get. In this video, you're going to see what I've done is I've talked about that I have 40 yards of fabric. I do. But today, in this video, I'm only going to really be showing you the 10 yards of fabric. So to do 10 yards of fabric got me 5 chairs, tops and bottoms, and 1 more top. So I was 1 bottom short for the color I wanted on this orange stripe. So I will go back to the store and pick up another yard of that, piece it together to come up with 1 more bottom for one of the chairs that I have up here. What I'm going to be doing is I'll come back another time and show you how I'm going to do the little throw pillows as well as the remainder of the chairs. And I want to use up that yardage that I had bought. But in the video, I mentioned that you're going to be seeing a lot of other fabrics. Unfortunately, it's just going to be this one striped fabric for this video. I would like to show you one more thing. So I'm just going to take a piece of fabric, and let's just pretend this is all to size. It's not. I'm just going to show you how simple this method is. So what you're going to do is you're just going to go over to your sewing machine. You're going to sew 2 hems. And I did about a 1/2 inch fold and then about another 1/2 inch fold. I sewed right down each side and I did a 1/4 inch seam. Okay, so after I've done that, I come back over. I'm going to flip this over. Pretend I've got the hems in each side here. I'm going to fold this. I'll bring it over so the top piece ends at about halfway over the fabric. So I need that overhang to be 5 inches. So when I do it, I'm just really eyeing it, eyeballing it. And then I take it to where the halfway mark is, but then I measure to make sure I'm 5 inches. And when I do that 5 inches, I'm going from the hem to the hem. I'm including the hem right in it. That'll give me the 5 inch mark. All right. Then after I do that, this is where I pin it. I'm pinning down both sides. When I say both sides, I mean between the hems. So you've got the hem, here, and you've got the hem here, and you've got your 5 inches right here in between. And I just put the 2 pins all the way down. That'll hold that right in place. And then what I do, I go over to the serger. I should have sewed these hems in this little demonstration. And then I go over to the serger and I just serge each end. All right. And then when I box the bottoms, that's super easy. I was a little bit off camera on that video. You take and you just pull your bottoms out and you have the seam facing you. And that's what you want to hold in the middle. And that's when you'll get a good demonstration at how to do that. But you didn't see me pull it out. So it's together. You just pull your fabric apart, like, you know, grab each end, and that seam will be facing you. I hope you find that that's a little bit more helpful. It did get a little confusing in the video, but I thought maybe by showing you it is so simple. You just cross these two over, find your halfway, pull it over, put your pins in, serge these ends, and I gave it a straight stitch as well, and then box your edges and go ahead and pull it inside right, and you've got your pillow top. I did forget to mention that you'll need a measuring tape and you will need pins for this project. All right, let's get started. For today's project, all I'm going to be using is a T-square. I've got a long ruler, I've got scissors, and I've got chalk. And of course, I've got a fabric. What I'm going to do is I'm going to measure 29 inches and where that takes me. I'm going to put my ruler here right to the edge. I know that 29 inches is going to take me just about here to this line. I'm going to cut this fabric all the way down this line. I'm going to just put a yellow line here with my chalk, and all that's going to do is just keep me so I'm sure not to veer off and get on some wrong line as I'm going. I don't have to do that all the way down. I just have to do it just every once in a while so it keeps me on track. I'll just take my ruler and I'm just going to cut all the way down this whole piece of fabric. I know that this side is going to fit my other cushion. So this will be my large cushion, and there's enough here for me to go like sideways, and this will be my small top cushion for the top of the chair. So what I'll do is I'll just start cutting. I'm not going to stay exactly on the line. I'm going to leave a little bit of white there. I'll be using my T-square more in just a little bit here. So what I'll do is I'll just keep folding these up as I go so I have room on my table to do this work. And then I'll just spread it out again. And I can see my yellow line, and of course I can see where I left off here. So I'll stay right, put my ruler right back on that line. Just a little bit away from my orange. And I'll just cut right there. And I'll just continue to do the same thing. This piece of fabric I'm working with right here is 10 yards. I bought 4 10-yard rolls of fabric, so I think I'm only going to need about 30 yards. I had made these back a few years back, and I believe I used 30 yards of fabric. There was also enough there back then for me to do the little throw pillows that go on it as well, so that's my plan. My kitty just won't get out of the shot. I'm going to have to go with it because I'm spending more time trying to get the kitty out of the picture. Both of my cats are right here with me. One's sitting in the chair right beside where I'm working, and one's on the fabric. My orange kitty is Rosie, and my gray kitty is Remy. So I don't need to mark this right now because I can see where I left off. This is really a good job for 2 people. One could be holding the fabric and rolling it, and one could just be cutting. You're going to want to roll this as you go because what happens, it will get right away from you. So if you just keep rolling up both sides as you go, it'll stay nice and neat for you. All I'm doing is folding them in half, and then I'm measuring. Mine are going to be at 70 inches, so I'm just going to take my T-ruler because it's long and make sure I'm at 35 inches. and then make sure I'm straight. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start like an assembly line. I'm just going to start cutting all of my fabric. I have 4 different colored fabrics, I believe. I'm going to cut them all down and start getting them all prepped at the same time. So now I'm just going to get them all cut to size, and then I'm going to go put hems on all of them. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to fold this over and then fold it over again. I've just taken my pin out. It's hard for me to do it with the pins because I can't get a good straight line by folding it without the presser foot holding that end down for me. So it's just as easy for me to do it from here. I'm going to sew about 1/8 of an inch. I'm going to start off and I'm going to back stitch. And I might do that a couple of times just to keep that good and strong. And then I'm going to sew that 1/8 of an inch all the way down. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to a certain point, and then I'll just keep pushing this fabric underneath and kind of laying this flat as I go. Go till I get to my finger, and then I'm just going to readjust. And there's where I did put a pin, and you can see I've already need to straighten that all out. So I might as well just do it once I have that tension of my presser foot holding it down. Okay. I'll give it a back stitch a few times right here on the end. All right, so there, my first hem is done. I'm going to do the same to the other side. Hem to fall right at the 5-inch mark. So what I'm going to do is just keep pulling this over till I get this all straight to the 5-inch mark. Okay. And then I'm going to flatten that side out. So now I know that my inside hem, between my hem and there is 5 inches, and same here. So that is going to be where I want my line, because I want my line in the center of my fabric. So now my whole cushion is going to be the size I need it. So my opening for my pillow is pretty in the center. It doesn't have to be right in the center, but I don't want it over to one side or another, because I'm also going to be boxing the bottoms of these. So I'm just going to put some pins in this, and I'm going to put 2. I'm going to put them right, both of them right here into this, right close to the hems, and there'll be no shifting going on. If you decide you want a bigger overhang, you can also make your fabric longer and make a bigger opening. You know, I only wanted a 5-inch overhang. I don't like it to have too much because I have a hard time getting the pillows in it. So for me, this is the size I need. That's how I made my other ones too. I used a 5-inch overhang, and that works really well for me. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to go over to my machine, and I'm going to be serging. I'm going to serge all the way down both sides. Okay? And then what I'm going to do, because I just like to do this, after I serge, that's going to cut off all of this fray. What I'm going to do is I am going to take on my sewing machine, and I'm going to just sew a straight line really close to it, but on this side of the serge. That way I'm just really protected that those sides will not rip. Okay, I am going to see you over at the serger. I'm just going to hold both sides of my fabric here, and I'm going to hold on to make sure that they stay, straight with each other. Okay, and I am just going to start serging. now to my hem, where both of my hems are, and I'm going to go pretty slow over those because it's going to be pretty thick. And you're just going to need to just keep readjusting. If you don't have a serger, just do a zigzag stitch. If you have an overlock stitch on your sewing machine, just use that. Coming up to my seams, I'm not going to go too fast over those. Not too slow either though. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go over to my sewing machine for a minute, and I'm going to sew down on the other side of that seam I just made. I'm just going to come in, I'm going to just put my presser foot right on the edge, the inside edge of my seam that I just made. And I'm just going to sew that down. It's probably like 1/4 of an inch. So what I'm going to do is I want to make sure when I start, I'm going to sew right over this thread here. And when I start, I'm going to give it a good back stitch. And off I go. I don't need to sew over that entire piece of serge thread. I just do it so it locks it in place. Okay, and now I'm just going to sew a straight line all the way down, back stitch at the beginning and at the end. Now I'm coming right over one of my hems here. I can feel that under my presser foot, so I'm going to go over it, and then I'm going to back stitch a couple of times. Just going to secure it because that's going to be opening and closing all the time. Same here to this hem. Go over, back stitch a couple of times just to get that a good secure stitch where it's going to be opening and closing to put the cushions in. I like to serge the edges just because it's easy and it makes it so it just doesn't fray. But then I also like to give it this because, a straight stitch, because just in case it does let go somewhere in there, it's always going to have that security. So, oh, and remember just to always back stitch at the end as well. Same thing for the other side. I'm just going to sew some of that serged edge on there. 1/4 of an inch away, or I just have my presser foot just resting right up to it. Give it a few back stitches. And here's the first hem, and I want to really secure that good. And come to the end and give it a back stitch. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to box my edges. And I'm going to do that while I'm inside out. And all I'm going to do is I know I need a 3-inch, the thickness was 3 inches, so I need to just be sure I've got 3 inches here so I get that nice boxy look. Okay, I'm going to open it right here. And I'm going to just pull that all open. And I'm going to let that seam, you can see here, this seam, see my triangle here? This is where I'm opening it, and I'm always opening it on this seam. And all I'm going to do is try to get that to fall somewhere in the middle. Okay, and make sure I've got a nice little triangle here. All I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this around. So once you have your triangle, just take your ruler and mark yourself at 3 inches. Touch this and make sure you come over 3 inches. Okay? 3 inches. I'm going to take a pen. This is just a regular old, you can just take any old pen here because you're going to be either cutting this off or you're going to leave it. In my case, I'm leaving it because I don't really need, there's no need for me to cut them off. I'm just going to leave them right inside of the cushion. I'm going to give it a back stitch and I'm going to just sew right down this line and give it a back stitch. Okay, so now if you wanted to, you could just snip these off. They are of absolutely no use. I'm not going to. I have a whole bunch of chairs to do. It's just going to give my cushion more padding. My cushions are they're getting really old. I've had them for years and years and years, so a lot of them are pretty flat. So I really, my cushions don't need to be as big. The cushion covers don't need to be quite as big as they used to be because they're so flattened out, but that's fine. And I don't mind having this extra fabric in there. I'm just going to go ahead and leave it. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to open this up. You really, depending on how many cushions you have, you can really get a good assembly line going because you can just do each step. Instead of doing one chair at a time, just really go right for it and like make all of the cushion covers at one time. Like get all your measurements done, then come over, do all your hemming, then go back, do all your folding, do all your pinning, then come back to your sewing machine or your serger or however you're going to do it, and then just go and do all of them all at one time. So it just will go quite fast. If you do one at a time, it just feels like it's a lot slower. And while you're in the moment, you might as well just do them all at once. You know, you have it out and you're in that mode of like cutting. You're cutting the 70 inches. So you just cut all of them at that. You know, you're just in the mode. So it's easy if you do them all at once. Okay, I'm going to make my mark at my 3 inches. Back stitch and back stitch. When you're folding your fabric to make your box cuts here, just make the seam come facing you, okay? If you make that seam facing you, it's just, you can center it really easy. Just make sure you're flat down at the bottom here. And if you're getting this good triangle right here, you should be all set. And you've got the seam upward. Okay, I've got one more here on this cushion. If you are one that writes down what you make, it'd be good to write these numbers down. I wrote down when I made the cushions, but unfortunately I didn't write down, you know, how much fabric I needed, length and width and whatnot. I mean, that's easy enough to get, but I should have wrote it down. I will this time. It's just good reference if you're going to go back and make something again. And I mean, I know I'm going to make more cushions because they wear out after so many years. For me, because my cushions have gotten so flat, I'm just going to leave these all, I'm going to leave all the layers on it. Mine dry super, super fast, and they don't, I only have a few that get wet. The rest are undercover. So I don't mind having all this extra cushion. I'm going to leave all the original pads. So this is the third time. This is the second time I've made them in the original. So there'll be 3 layers of fabric on those little cushions. Okay, so there, I've got all 4 corners done. I'm going to turn this right side in. And I'll push those out a little bit with my fingers here. Here's my old cushion, and these ones I just had serged to the edges. I didn't even make a hem on those ones. And you can see I only left a 5-inch open in here, and that was plenty. Okay, so now I'm just going to stuff this into my new cover. And then I'm just going to cram this really as hard as I can. I'm going to push that down in. That's why I only like a 5-inch opening. I mean a 5-inch overhang, because if you have it too big, it's hard to get the pillow down in. I really like envelope style cushions. I could make them with the zippers and whatnot, but for me, I don't need zippers on them. The only reason I need a zipper is when I need to make new ones, if I did want to take them off, because I don't really take these in to wash them, so. But you can see how nice that fits. It's nice and it feels really good. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing for the tops. For the tops, I'm going to be using the smaller side of the fabric that I had cut when I'd split it in half. And I used the one to the left for the cushion, and I'm going to use the one to the right for all of the tops. Hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please like and subscribe. I'll see you next time. Remember to keep it simple. Have a nice day. Thanks for watching. Bye.